7:02. Yes, hi mom, says Shazada. So it's 7:02. I'm going to introduce myself because I'm sure we'll have one or two people log in even once this gets kicked off. And even those of you who know me might not know some of this because a lot of the other things I've been teaching are different. So I am Elizabeth Alles. I have been doing youth stuff in the SCA actually longer than anything else. The very first event I worked, I spent the day at youth activities getting my butt kicked at board games by 10-year-olds. So that was actually where I started. I've previously served as a local youth officer, regional youth officer, the Midrealm Kingdom youth officer, and I've worked on youth activities at innumerable local events, as well as kingdom level events, Penzic, and I ran the youth activities at the Midrealm 50-year celebration. So I've been doing this a while. I actually have only been in a Dean of Page School since October, so I haven't gotten to attend a single event as Dean of Page School. So I was kind of teaching this at the end of ROM, hoping that we can get people interested as we're ramping back up to be able to be in person. Because let me tell you, nothing has come into the Dean of Page School email in months other than here's the background check and the migration of the Midrealm server. And that it's been dead quiet. So I'm excited about being Dean of Page School. It also may mean occasionally I have to look through my papers to refresh my memory on things because I haven't been able to actually do my job. I've been able to read about my job. So I am curious, first of all, what people are tuning in for, because I can kind of tune my presentation to what people's interests are in logging in tonight.
I'm just here to kind of try and understand it better. I have a 9-year-old who joined the Page School right before the pandemic started, so we haven't had a whole lot of experience in Page School yet.
Fair. Okay, welcome. Well, then we'll definitely at least go over the levels and talk about them. Shazada's coming at it from more of a Chatelaine standpoint because she wants to be able to share things with newcomers. If anybody else wants to chime in with why they're interested, or if it's just, hey, it's one more thing about the SCA I can learn about, that's great too.
We actually have a pretty big children's population now in our barony. We've had a couple more families join that have kids. And so I'm looking at it from a Chatelaine perspective too, just to be able to help newcomers understand that there is something for their kids to be able to do. I don't have any familiarity with the Page School at all.
Okay.
So I know we have one. I have seen them doing things, and I've seen them getting awards or something along those lines. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll need the basics.
Oh, great.
The situation.
Then that helps me. And I see Antonio is here to just learn everything he can, which is why I think he's been to all of my classes at this point. So great. We'll go. Oh, I know. I expect him to be there when I log in. So I'm going to talk.
I'm actually going to try to learn something too, though, Elizabeth. I mean, because, okay, where I supervise like martial activities at Penzic, I'm always looking for things that we can do to, it's not combat related, but that doesn't mean we couldn't do stuff. We've got tents over there and things like that if we needed to. I mean, you can always add stuff and be a better host, for Penzic is what I'm looking at. So if you've got things to point out, please do.
I absolutely will. So let's talk about Page School in general. The idea of Page School, and this is the most recent iteration. This is the one that we edited and came up with in 2018. Previously, Page School had fewer levels. and wasn't necessarily as well defined. And we had some kids who would zip right through it. And so we tried to put in some more, we've added more levels, and we have added the opportunity to basically, if you're having fun and doing a lot more, you can still earn coins showing your accomplishments, even after you have completed all the requirements for a level the first time. So the purpose of Page School is to recognize the efforts of the kids to learn about the SCA and participate in it. So we don't necessarily sponsor activities, though we'll certainly help people with ideas and suggestions, but it's more of a, here is a way for kids to have a little bit of a structured way to learn about the SCA, and the levels, as we talk about them, are really designed to take it from a little kid just starting out to, you know, somebody who's 17 and is about to be an adult and wants to join in the SCA at an adult level. So we don't necessarily run things, but we're there to track and support and to provide some positive feedback for the kids, because it's just different when you're young. If you got to wait all the way till your AOA, that's a long time to wait. And you're making so much progress and growing as you go. So we're promoting the education of youth about the SCA and the Middle Ages, and to provide opportunities for them to get involved, pursue their interests, develop their skills in a way that gives them directions and a sense of achievement, and to teach them at an age-appropriate level about chivalry, honor, responsibility, courtesy, history, all the things that we value as a society. So we're looking for an age-appropriate way for kids to participate. And I think particularly if you have a new family who everything is new to them, Page School is a really good way to say to them, hey, we've got an idea of how kids like to get themselves exposed, and here's a way to give them tastes of lots of different things. Right now, the Page School handbook is not up because it got caught up in the Midrealm library issues, but we're working on it. It should be back up shortly. I'm not going to go into detail on the youth policies. Pretty much the Midrealm follows society policy when it comes to supervision of youth. That was one of the things that we really simplified when I was the Kingdom Minister of Youth. So we do have you register. So you enroll in Page School. There are paper forms to do it, but most people choose to do it online. So there is a Page School website that is linked off the main Midrealm page, and you enroll so that we know you're doing it, because and you register, because one of the first things we like to do is have a belting ceremony to formally invite the kids and welcome them into Page School. So once you fill out your registration paperwork, then the Dean of Page School is going to reach out to you, me, and make arrangements to have a belting ceremony. We like to do them at events. I actually got to do one even before I was Dean of Page School at a local meeting because it was what was convenient for the family. So you receive, as a page during your belting ceremony, you get a purple belt, and you get a notebook and a pen. That will be the first one for you to lose, as well as paperwork basically going over Page School again for you. So I don't physically have those things yet, but I'll be picking them up as soon as it's safe to travel from the previous Dean of Page School. And the idea of the notebook is that that's where the kids can then have something to record their adventures and their experiments and the things they have fun trying. When you get into upper levels, we'll talk about it. You'll be like taking a picture or scanning pages from that notebook to send in showing your progress. We encourage you to have the belting ceremony. It's not required, but it's a lot more fun. And to invite your friends, invite other kids in the group, maybe who are in Page School. And we encourage the kids to wear their belts when they're at events. You know, that is one of the symbols of Page School, so people know you're participating. We have moved all of our reporting of hours electronically. So we actually have the Page School website that I mentioned. If you ever see a problem with it, pageschool@midrealm.org is the Page School dean. And it's all Google Forms and Google Docs, so that you just fill it out and it records it, and I get a little notification that says things have been added to your Google document. So when you're doing reporting of activities, we want you to spend at least 15 minutes trying whatever it is. If you try it and you don't like it, after 15 minutes, you write it down and go try something else. It's until you get at the upper level, at the final level before you graduate from Page School, then we're looking for a minimum of 30. But we understand, kids, you try it, you go, not for me. Okay, 15 minutes was good enough for trying that. So there's a lot of explanation in the handbook that activities are expected to have some substance and pertain to the Middle Ages or the SCA. We expect that as kids get older, those activities will get, more complex as they age. If you ever have any question about would something qualify or what would it fall under, the Dean of Page School will help you figure that out. And pandemic aside, some of the activities can be done at home, but there is a requirement at each level that so much of your time on that level is done at SCA functions. Doesn't have to be an event. It can be a meeting or a demo or a practice, but we're encouraging the kids to participate in the SCA, not just learn things independently at home. We have obviously encouraged parents and guardians to be involved in their Pages journey, but you don't have to be a parent to get involved. We're always looking for adults who, are willing to have kids do service on their area at an event, who are open to kids, attending their classes, participating in their activities. One of the things I've personally done as an effort to encourage youth participation is I don't put an age limit on my class. I put an ability limit. So I say, if to attend this class, you need to be able to safely use scissors. You still have to follow the guidelines for supervising your child, but in terms of whether a child is welcome, are we using scissors and a needle? Well, then they need to be able to safely use scissors and a needle. Could a kid do something like shadow an officer or shadow an event staff member? Yes, absolutely. That is a good idea. As they get older, there are actually some offices that you don't have to be 18 to hold. And so that's one of the things we suggest as something as kids get older. But the other thing is we are always looking for adults who are not currently parents of minors who still want to help out with bringing youth into the society. We'll talk a little bit later. Older kids, we encourage them to have a sponsor. So that is an adult who is not their parent, who is also mentoring them and encouraging them. And we'll get more into that when we get to that level. So we're always looking for adults who are seeing kids who are doing good work, encouraging them, writing them in for the youth awards, recognizing them, finding ways for them to participate at an age appropriate level. So the rules and guidelines, any minor is welcome to participate in Page School. You don't have to be an SCA member to enroll in Page School. There is no cost associated with being part of Page School. We expect that you're coming to the SCA with your parents. They're going to take care of, getting you garbed up, any gear you need, getting supplies. In some places, there may be some loaner or donor items that could be available. You just need to check with people locally to see if there are things available. I know, for example, in some areas where there's a strong youth fighting contingent, they have loaner gear for the youth, just like you have loaner gear for adults. This is for the kids. So when they're doing their hours, completing their activities, this is their work. We expect the parents to be available to support them and obviously help them with anything that is a safety concern, like sharp tools. But we're looking for this really to be, what are the kids interested in trying and doing? And have them direct this. We do state that youth are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner, not being disruptive, bullying. If a child is at an activity, class or whatever, and they are not behaving properly, they are to be returned to their parents. Would the participants be able to watch online SCA classes or help online? Yes. This was obviously all written before we ever knew we'd be in a pandemic. But I would absolutely say that, you could, if you had a youth who was interested enough to sit down and watch a virtual class, yeah, that's part of their ANS. If there is some administrative stuff they can do, because they're better on a computer than an adult and they can help update a website, yeah, that's service. We've all had to be creative the last year. And of course, parents, your kids best. If you know that your child needs you to be there when they're trying something, that's just part of your responsibility. If your kid is not going to deal well when you walk away, even though most 12-year-olds would be fine to have you 10 feet away, that's part of you knowing your child. And of course, if anybody gets injured, the kid gets returned as quickly as possible to the parent or guardian. Any medical treatment is going to be taken care of with the parent there, or whoever has that medical authorization for minors form that they use to bring the kid to the event. I have never had anything worse than a scraped knee at anything I've run. Actually, no, that's not true. The worst injury was a deep tissue injury, but it was my own playing tag on a concrete floor. Those little kids didn't fall. Okay, so they call, as you move through the different levels, so we have 5 levels in Page School. And so we call it leveling up to move from one to the other. And my pages got weirdly moved. So let me page through to this. I duplicated some pages. So we have, as we go through the levels, there are recommended ages. You can certainly, a youth can certainly decide to complete levels below their recommended age. We do encourage them not to move up until they're closer to the upper age limit on that particular level. So to complete any level, regardless of what it is, we're looking for pages to learn and grow in 3 major categories: arts and sciences, martial activities, and service. At the most basic, that's what we're looking for you to do. And then at the end of that, to move to the next level, you complete a quest or a project. At the lower levels, the quests and projects are literally like a reflection sheet. The lowest level one, it's write or draw. It's a checklist. It's try these things out. And the next one is write or draw these 4 different things that you experience trying out events. So we're really trying to go for that youngest age. So each time you complete an area, however many hours in arts and sciences, in martial activities or service, you can earn a coin. We'll need, and we encourage people to cast us to create more coins. That's the other thing I haven't picked up yet from my predecessor. So anybody who starts Page School, so any age, we have a novice level. And we want all of our pages to try out the novice level just to get an opportunity to get a taste of everything. And the novice level is completing the quest, which is attending 3 SCA events and trying something in each category at those 3 events. So it is a very simple level, but it's to introduce them, to get a taste, and just here's how Page School works. Once you're done with it, here's how you submit your information. So there's not a set number of hours for that. Is that 3 events in a year? Doesn't matter how long it takes you to do it. It's just that you have to do it over the course of 3 events. So it is an extremely simple little checklist. And I am going to bring it up and share my screen just for a second so that you can see what I mean. So this is what the Novice Page Quest looks like. It is a very simple, attend 3 events and try something in each category. Now we have suggestions of things that are pretty easy that are likely to be at many events, but we always have the other category. And, you know, depending on the age of the page, that'll determine what they might be interested. You know, under service, be responsible for my own stuff. You know, somebody who's 5, that could be a really big thing, that they make sure that they have all their stuff organized and they get it in and out of the event. Somebody a little older is like, I do that all the time. Maybe they want to volunteer for royalty room guard. So this level is a tasting plate. This is go to 3 events and taste them. So very simple and straightforward, and really just about trying it out. What do you think? And now I got to get back to my screen. Stop share. All right, you got to look at me again for a little while. So there's our novice page quest. So once you complete the novice page quest, if you're on the younger end, if you're 6 years or younger, the explorer page level would be next. If a page is older, they can choose to skip to the level that is most appropriate for their age. We don't force them to go through all the levels. You don't find the SCA until your parents join when you're 13. You can skip right to where 13-year-olds would normally be. But if you want to, if you're having a really good time and you want to experiment, you can go through all the levels. So the next level above novice is the explorer page. And this is really designed for like 6 years old and younger. And this is another very introductory level. Encouraged to try everything. At this age, we're assuming that pretty much anything they're doing, they're going to be doing with a parent or guardian. Or, if grandma is in the SCA, maybe grandma's taking them, or an aunt. But this is something that they're going to be exploring with the family. So what we ask them to do at the explorer page level is spend 2 hours trying out arts and sciences, 2 hours trying out martial activities, and 2 hours trying out service. And like I said before, those are 15-minute increments. So maybe you try dancing for 15 minutes and you decide you don't like it. That's okay. That's still 15 minutes of A&S. And we do have some suggestions that'll be going up on the website of just ideas of what do you try. But it's basically go to an event and look around and say, I want to try that. I want to go learn about rapier fighting. I want to go learn about archery. So it's trying out all the things and just seeing what you like. And then the explorer quest. So with the novice quest was pretty simple. The explorer quest is also very simple. I'm going to share again. And you can see, so here is the explorer page quest. It is 4 categories, and you can see that it's aimed at younger children who might not have a lot of writing ability yet. So you can draw a picture or write about one thing you tried in service, about one thing you tried in the arts and sciences, about one thing in the martial activities, and then draw or write about somebody you got to meet while you were doing that stuff. This is still, you're exploring, you're learning, you're figuring out the world you've now found yourself in of the SCA and what things there are to do. Which is why if you join as an older kid but very new to the SCA, you might want to try this. So, like I said, that's the explorer. So then we have, and a minimum of the 2 hours of the 6 of the explorer page is expected to be completed at an SCA function. A learner page. So this is the next level. We designed this for about 7 to 9 years old. And you're still learning about what's going on around you, but we're starting to encourage kids to focus on what do they enjoy. So this is now 3 hours each in ANS, martial activities, and service. And again, 15-minute increments. So try things. If you don't like them, try something else. And then the learner's quest is, I'll pull that up in just a second. The learner's quest you'll see is a little longer. It's designed for someone, and I may have to read some of these for you, but it's designed for someone a little older to answer. And it's a lot of learning more about the history of the SCA and what the SCA is. So what is the SCA? How did it start? Learning about the history. What's your local group? What is there to do in the SCA and what interests you? How are the king and queen chosen? What are the youth awards? What are the different peerages? What's a persona? What's heraldry? And then it ends with what's something in the SCA you want to learn more about. So we really direct the learner level at, okay, you know the basics. Now, of all those things you've tried, what's really getting you excited? What do you want to do more of? So the journeyman. Let me get off Sharon's screen again, because I know you all want to look at my lovely face. So the journeyman quest. So we're thinking journeyman, we're designing it for about 10 to 12 years old. So this is where we're moving further in the thinking about paths of interest. What of the things you've tried really excites you? And we're really looking for you to learn even more about the history of the SCA and also the protocols, the behaviors, how do we expect people to conduct themselves? So this is 12 hours spread over 3 hours in arts and sciences, 3 hours in martial activities, 3 hours in service, and then 3 hours in something specific that interests you. So it'll end up falling into one of those previous categories, but this is, what do you like? Okay, now over the course of however long you're doing this, spend 3 hours doing that thing. So maybe that's participating in youth combat. Maybe you're like my friend's daughter and you love heraldry, and that's spending time at the consulting table at Penzic and helping with heraldic consults. But it's, what do you like? Now spend some time really starting to try that thing and figure out all its edges. And we're looking for 4 hours of that to be at an SCA function. So now we're moving up. An intermediate page is, we're thinking about 13 to 15 years old, earlier teens. We're looking for you to continue to build on what you've learned in that area of interest, but you can shift as you decide you made a bad decision, or it's not as fun as you thought it would be, or your interests change because you're growing. So we're looking for 15 hours total. So that's 3 in ANS, 3 in martial activities, 3 in service, and then 6 hours in whatever your focused areas of interest are. You can see every level it builds a little bit. Plus, for the intermediate and the scholar levels, because scholar is 16 to 17, we're looking for a few extra things. So for an intermediate page, we want you to teach or demo at least 1 hour over the course of each year. So maybe that's teaching a class, maybe that's going to a demo and, demoing weaving, but we're looking for you to start to share your knowledge in a more formal way. You're going to complete a final project. We'll talk about final projects in a couple minutes. Excuse me. And you're going to find a Page School sponsor. So the idea of a sponsor is somebody who's not your parent, who has some expertise in what you're specifically really into. They don't have to be a peer, but somebody who, knows something about what you're doing. So, for example, I'm going to pick on Shahzada. If there was a Page who was really interested in henna, Shahzada is a very talented henna artist. So the Page's parents and the Page and Shahzada might talk and Shahzada say, yeah, I will sponsor and help this Page learn. The sponsors should not be meeting with the Page without the parents being present. This is another adult to talk to, but the parent or guardian should always be present. And they should be talking to them in a common area. So, at a meeting, out in the social area, at an event in the populous space. And they shouldn't be communicating directly with the Page through like social media or anything, or the phone or email. The communication should still go through the parent for the youth's protection. So what we were looking for from a sponsor is somebody to encourage the Page, to give them helpful, useful, and kind suggestions. And there is one thing, because one of the projects at the next level is you'll make a belt for when you graduate from being a Page. You'll need a new belt because you won't be a Page anymore. So your sponsor needs to acquire the container to keep your belt until you're ready to take it. So there's some modeling on some other SCA traditions of mentoring relationships. So, and at that intermediate Page level, we're looking for a minimum amount of time, like 15 minutes, talking to their sponsor about what they want their final project at the intermediate level to be. So the final project is come up with something. I know it's very vague, but something in the area that the youth is interested in, that you want to try out. Maybe you want to make your first fully documented A&S piece. Maybe you want to serve as a deputy in an event staff position. Maybe you want to organize, a class or something, but it's a project to basically demonstrate all the things you have learned up to this point. And it's part of that step of getting closer to being an adult. We all know how many projects adults in the SCA do. We're only asking the kid to do one at the intermediate level. But picking something that's age appropriate, but is stretching you to try. And the next level, the last level, Scholar, you'll see a lot of parallels. We do a lot of the A&S. We do a lot of the same things at Scholar, which we're thinking these are the kids who are 16 or 17. So we're looking for 18 hours total, and this is when participating in teaching or demonstrating in a focused area. So the bulk of your time now is in whatever thing is your geek. We also want you to still do 3 hours each in A&S, martial activities, and service. Yes, but they have to finish their project, because we're looking for you to be well-rounded, like we want peers in the society to be. And that's, in some ways, we're trying to mold the kids into what we want a peer to be at an age-appropriate level. So you've got 18 hours. You should be able to get your project done in 18 hours. I hope. And a minimum of 3 hours in those other things. Now, instead of teaching once, because so at the previous level you taught once, now we're looking for you to teach twice a year. So once a RAIN, teach or demo for an hour. You complete another final project at the scholar level. You meet a minimum of once per RAIN with your sponsor working on that final project. And you create a belt for yourself that is going to be your adult belt, your replacement for your page belt. So, and yes, I love but they have to finish their project. Yes. So how we recognize youth over the course of this structure, like I said, everybody gets a belt when they start. And each time you complete a required section of those groups of hours, you get a coin, and the coins are designed so that you can sew them onto the belt and wear them. If you want, if you want to clang. We strongly encourage pages to try out making the coins. And then as you move from one level to the other, we will make arrangements for the kid to be called into court to receive, in addition to any coins we still owe them, a scroll of achievement. So basically their majesties, or if they're having a regency court, their highnesses, will then recognize in front of the populace the accomplishments that you, as the youth, have done so far. And then you eventually graduate. So there is a graduation ceremony when you are finally in that 16 to 17 age range and you've completed all the requirements of being a scholar. Then there is a graduation ceremony that'll be coordinated with their majesties in a royal court. We also encourage, when we do those graduation ceremonies, other Page School graduates to participate. And we try to make that possible if the court will allow it and the space will allow. And part of that graduation ceremony is taking off that purple belt and having the sponsor give them that belt that they made to symbolize the end of their time as a page and the beginning of participating in the SCA as an adult. So that is the basics of Page School. I know there's a lot of numbers. Don't worry about it. That's what we have a handbook for. That's why we have checklists and entering things. It's just a way to keep track of the stuff that a lot of kids do anyway when they're trying out the SCA, and to let them get some recognition as they learn and grow. So please, if you have questions, if there's anything you want to talk about, any questions about what you can do to help, please feel free. I think we're small enough you can unmute. Yes, Antonio?
If I might ask, and this is just something that I know because I've heard lots of different talking heads mention something like this,
Mhm.
is that in a lot of kingdoms we see a lot of youth activities that are oriented more towards like the 10 and under crowd, with some in the 10 to 12 crowd. But once we really get into like the older youth and like the 13 like plus crowd, we then kind of see a lull in like a lull in engagement, and that's where a lot of the kids like fall off until they either like rediscover until basically they rediscover the society as an adult. How do you guys plan on like keeping the page school, especially because it's seen as like one universal entity from like beginning of childhood through the beginning of adulthood? how how do you work to really keep the older youth involved, especially, and then also how do you work to kind of minimize any negative thoughts or any stigma about being in something that's like the same program as quote unquote little kids? And I'm sorry if I didn't word any of that properly.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I think what I've seen, because I've also been part of some of the surveys of the youth that have been done, is one of the challenges really is youth who grew up in the SCA getting to that point, when they get to be, maybe 13, 14, 15, where they don't want always to be reminded that they're still kids. I mean, when you're 43, they look like kids, but to them, that distance is massive. So part of it is, and part of the way Page School is designed is, if there are things that are safe for them to do as teenagers that aren't kid directed, that they're just regular activities, that's where they should be able to go. So part of it is, like I said earlier, in your local group, push for classes that are restricted based on ability and things that you need to be able to do, not necessarily based on your age, where it's possible. If you need to be able to use a sharp object, there's a certain age requirement that the parent's going to know about. But to you, what's important is, say, we're going to use sharp knives in this class. So if you're under 18, I at least need your parent or guardian, to hang out in the back of the room. So part of it is welcoming them where appropriate to just what everyone's doing. I think also building a positive relationship with Page School when they are younger helps. I was, for one thing, a lifelong Girl Scout. And having a good experience when you were young motivated you to stay in and want to stick with it, versus a lot of the girls who quit. Well, they didn't really have that much fun when they were young, so there was no incentive to stay when they were older, and it was a geeky thing to do. The other thing I have tried to do, and I know other groups are doing, is we have started to have some more activities that really are aimed at that age group, not because they need to be segregated from the adults, but because they want some things that are their own. Like some of the kingdoms at big events like Penzik will have like a teen pizza party or a teen party where they need their space to experience things a little more independently. And part of the design of Page School, because it's not, you must take this class, but it's investigate this thing you like, is trying to encourage them as they grow in independence to be experimenting with those things. And the biggest thing that we can all do as adults is remember that they're not 5 anymore. What I hear from those kids who grow up in the SCA is they reach for a point where they're almost an adult or they are an adult, and nobody ever lets them forget that they changed their diapers. when they were tiny. And people keep treating them like kids. And that's a challenge, because it can be hard to look at someone who you held as an infant and now they're on the field fighting with the adults.
They're the king.
Or they're the king. So one thing that I don't know that Page School can specifically do, other than how we encourage our sponsors and everything, is let the kids grow up. Let them grow, and encourage them. Totally personally, not SCA related. I'm currently working at a company where the owner's daughter is now an adult working there. And there's a very strange dynamic going on where not everybody's really treating her like a full adult, but she is. And that's part of what puts tension on kids at that age. Because yeah, we know at 16 they're not fully grown up, but they feel way more grown up than that 10-year-old. And we need to find ways to communicate to them that we do respect the ways in which they are mature.
All really solid answers. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's something I'm passionate about. I want to do more with teens, and seeing them stay involved. It's important to me. I mean, I was that geeky teenager who liked all the things that nobody at school liked. So anybody else?
For those that joined right before the pandemic, I'm assuming that there'll be a belting ceremony, or we'll be getting their stuff once it's safe again.
Yes. Once we have an idea of when that'll be, I will be catching up with everyone. Part of the problem is I'm 4 hours away from the previous person in the office. So first I got to
Right.
get it from her.
I
And-
understand.
And then I got to figure out what events we're going to be able to have. But yeah, I want to get everybody caught up. And we'll have a rash of belting ceremonies. And if I can't physically come, I can find someone closer to certain areas of the kingdom that I don't get to. I'm way out in Cleveland.
Okay, I'm at the other end of the state from you.
Okay, awesome. Hey, we'll get to see each other then. I do Ohio pretty well. But we'll make arrangements once I have more certainty on when we'll be in person again. I'll check in with Sahilder on if there's anybody else holding who didn't get to do those things.
Okay.
Quick question. If we're interested in being a sponsor, and I might have missed this, you might have said it, do we submit our names to you and sign up, and then you can pair us up with somebody that might have the same interest?
I would say if you are interested in being a sponsor, let me know. I'm sure some parents and kids just know who they want,
Sure.
but I would be happy to also have people to be able to say, hey, if you're not sure who to talk to, which especially with a newer family, they might not be, here are some suggestions of people close to you who are interested.
Cool. Excellent job. I learned lots.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to actually getting to do it. I helped with the revisions and everything of the handbook. And then I took office in a pandemic. So
Yeah.
not much is happening.
Elizabeth, what are the requirements for somebody that's a sponsor? Is that the same as a youth officer, or is that a different thing?
It is not even as much as a youth officer, because you're never meeting with because basically you're never responsible for the page outside of with their being with their parents. You just have to be willing to fulfill the requirements of mentoring them and being nice and being constructive and encouraging and figuring out something to put that belt in.
I've got like 3 minutes till 8. So if anybody got any more questions?
It's okay if you don't.
I have one more.
Sure.
So even though my son doesn't have his belt, but like we signed him up for Page School, and then the next week everything shut down.
Yeah.
So we're still able. I've submitted some of the stuff that he'd done here, like some of the online classes he took. Will I have to submit those again, like after he's officially belted, or is that going to count now?
No, in fact, probably what'll happen is if he were to get to the point of being ready for any coins, I'd send them to the belting ceremony.
Okay.
Be like, here you
Great.
go, here's a belt, here's coin.
Head of the game. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I know we'll be playing catch up because I need to verify that everybody who submitted stuff before actually got to go to an event. And then there have been very few submissions since the pandemic started. So I won't be surprised if people remember to go in and submit things once we're able to go to events.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if any questions come up, if you ever want to help with anything, I am very passionate about, like I said, particularly teen stuff, but also just helping kids find ways to join in the SCA at an age appropriate level and find their way. So the Page School Dean has a permanent email, which is pageschool@midrealm.org. That routes to me, and when I'm out of office, it'll route to my successor. And we are always up for ideas. And I also have my Kingdom Superior, which is Sahilder, who just previously served as the Dean of Page School. So she is also very passionate and interested in finding the best ways for youth to be involved. So feel free to drop us a line. Thank you. Confetti, last class of this year, and I am sad and happy.
Nice. Thank you for teaching so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great.